Hi, and welcome to the top podcast, long awaited, the wrestling podcast, number 5, A Way of Life. Now, to get us started, Ayden, how's it going? Go ahead and introduce yourself.
No, Michael, it's going good. It's a little unfortunate that we have to do this virtually, but due to the circumstances that we are in right now, it's the safest way we can do it. Um, yeah, I'm Ayden. I'm a wrestler, obviously, and I've been wrestling for about 6 years, and yeah, that's my quick little intro.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, my name's Chris. Obviously, I also wrestle. I've only been wrestling for like 3.5 years now, but it's going good. It's going good.
All right, sounds great. Yeah, and for our viewers, if you want to ever be on the top podcast, there will be a survey down below you can take now, and go ahead and subscribe to our Patreon if you haven't. And yeah, we also do virtual podcasts now. So, all right, first question of the day. What is wrestling? We're going to be talking about wrestling today, so we might as well let everyone know what the heck wrestling is. So, one of you guys want to answer that?
I'll just say, from like a definition standpoint, it's a sport, it's a contact sport, combat based, obviously. It goes back, I think it's the oldest sport in mankind. It goes back to, ancient Greece and where, the Romans would wrestle each other on concrete and naked, actually. So, but it's not like that anymore. I can promise you that. So, yeah, it's a combat sport, and as Michael said, the rudest slogan, "A way of life." It really is. It wrestling, especially for me, it encompasses more than just uh, taking people down and whatnot. As anybody who's very dedicated to their sport, they live for this sport, and this is what they want. So wrestling is my lifestyle.
Awesome. Chris, you got anything to say?
Yeah. It is, like Aiden said, one of the oldest sports. It's a combat sport, and in my opinion, one of like the toughest, not only physically but mentally. And I agree with what Aiden said. A lot of like dedicated wrestlers, it's like if they're dedicated to it, it's more than just like a sport that they do. They devote most of their life to it, and they'll like do outside of school things for it and just work really hard in it. And I feel like me and Aiden are both into that.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with you guys. I'm personally a wrestler as well. Yeah, so wrestling really, though, the rules to it, there's 3 positions. You try to take your opponent down. That's your neutral position. And then there's top if you took the opponent down, and there's bottom if you're being taken down. And the goal is to pin your opponent or get points to win. So yeah, let's get into it. So we're going to go through the grades on your guys' backstories. So Ayden, go ahead and start us off. I think you started in 8th grade or
No, I started in 6th grade, actually.
All right, go. I think Chris started in 8th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ayden, go ahead and tell us your 6th and 7th grade year, or 6th, 7th, and 8th, your middle school career.
Yeah, so I'll just talk about middle school real quick. It'll be pretty brief, but so I started in 6th grade. I wasn't actually able to wrestle with the team. In my district, 6th graders aren't allowed to participate in curricular sports. So it was really just an intramural. But then on the outside, I did this thing called club, and it's just like kind of outside of school wrestling. Kind of how any other youth sports club works. And so I did that. I was pretty bad. I didn't really like it at first. I was really hesitant. I thought about quitting a lot. I really didn't like it. And then 7th grade, I'm able to finally wrestle, and I start to like it a little bit more. I'm actually team captain in 7th grade, which was pretty cool. I mean, obviously looking back on it now, it's like, wow, you were a captain at a middle school. How great, But at the time, it was a really big deal for me, and so that kind of helped boost my motivation. I think I got like 4th in conference. I still wasn't very good, but I was starting to like get better, in the simplest terms. That's when I really started to do more off season, really started to, do workouts on my own. And then 8th grade was kind of the year where I like fell in love with the sport. I would say that was like the turning point. For a middle schooler, I was really good. And, even for a middle schooler in club, I was decent as well. Club is a lot harder than regular school, So for club, I was pretty decent, and for school, I was really good. I think I lost one match curricularly in 8th grade, and I think I had, a winning record in club. So those were two really good things. And then I ended up winning conference, and then I ended up going to IKWF state, which was kids state, and that was really cool as an 8th grader, just to be, in that environment of, 1,000+ people watching you wrestle, and hundreds of wrestlers there. Unfortunately, I lost my first match and I got knocked out first round, which was really a hard pill to swallow. But it only motivated me from there to do even better in high school. So 8th grade was kind of the year that propelled me into high school wrestling.
All right, sounds awesome. Chris, how was your 8th grade year?
Yeah. So my 8th grade was a lot different from Aiden's. Obviously that's the year when he started like getting good and like doing all these sick things. For me, 8th grade was my first year of wrestling, and I hadn't really done sports before that, so it's not like I was very athletic or like I had the mindset of an athlete. I was just kind of doing it to do it. I actually I have no memory of signing up for wrestling. It just kind of happened. But yeah, so how my year went for me is it was like an okay year. I won matches, I lost matches. I wasn't like the like worst. Not there was like A and B. I think A was like the best and like B was the worst, or like this. Yeah, I think I was in B if I remember correctly. I think I would switch between them every now and then. But yeah, I won matches, I lost matches. It was an okay year, and then once it came to conference, I didn't even place. I think I won my first match and then lost my second one, and then for me to be back in, the guy beat me would have to win his match, but he also lost, so I was knocked out of it. And like I said back then, I didn't really have like the mindset that I do now, so that was it for my 8th grade year. I didn't really do anything after that. Yeah, that was how my 8th grade went.
All right. So now we jump into high school, freshman year. I'm gonna assume this is like definitely the changing point for Chris, or at least a bigger step. Ayden, is it any different for you? Or...
I was wrestling with the high schoolers in 8th grade. I was familiar with the coaches already, and I knew a couple of the guys. I went to Colorado with them. They do each year for wrestling. We do like a summer trip, and so I went with them 8th grade year, and so that was really cool. I got to know a lot of the team, and that's where I started to really make some friends. Have some pals on the team that I could talk to, and then so freshman year, I joined the team, right, and I already have a pretty good idea of what's going on, and it was really funny because at the beginning of the year, I think within like the first 3 weeks of the season, I wrestled like the best guys I would all year. So I wrestled some pretty decent guys in the first couple of weeks, and I got brought to a varsity tournament. And at first, like I was very doubtful of myself. But after I went to a varsity tournament, I went 0-2, and I got eliminated. And after that, I was like, Ayden, I was like, you just need to stop losing. I'm like, you were so much better than this. You keep losing, and I don't know what's going on. And so after that, I actually went undefeated for the rest of the year on the freshman level, not on the varsity level, but on the freshman level. And it was really good. There was a lot of growth. I think when I first came in, I thought a little too highly of myself, and I was pretty humbled by the other people I was able to wrestle. So I just kept working on myself and just kept working harder than everybody else. Was really what I think propelled me to a level above most freshmen, and even to a relatively decent varsity wrestler at that time. And so at the end of the year, I won conference, which was awesome. And then that's kind of it. Really helped. It set me in a really good spot for sophomore year to be on the varsity team. So freshman year was very important to me.
All right. So Chris, how was your freshman year then?
Yeah, so freshman year for me, I remember going into freshman year, my mind still wasn't really in wrestling. I was more worried about like what high school was gonna be like and like the people and stuff. So like that was like something that I was prioritizing. And once season started, I remember I lost my first match, and that was one of the things that hit me that was like, okay, like I'm not really like good. Like if I want to do good, then like I'm gonna have to like start doing something. But like I said, going through the year, it was an okay year. I had a positive record, I think like barely. But I also lost a good amount of matches. And then I think in DVC, I won my first match. I lost my second one, and I believe I won my third one and lost my fourth one, or something like that. I don't remember, but I ended up getting fourth place. I think. Yeah, fourth place. So it wasn't really like a good year. It just kind of was like an eye opener that I'm not really good, and like if I if I want to be good at this sport, I'm gonna have to like start putting in the work. And like I said, in my mind, I wasn't thinking about wrestling at this time. I was more worried about like the social life. I was worried about like friends and like going out, having fun, and like popularity and all that stuff. Which really did hurt me. Not only in wrestling, but like my grades sucked. So like my parents weren't happy with that. Freshman year was a train wreck for me. It wasn't really that good. It was more of an eye opener for me. But yeah, that's how it went.
That makes sense. All right. So now sophomore year, personally, this is my game-changing year for wrestling. How was sophomore year for you? And this is like the weird year because this is like at the end of sophomore years when COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so
Yeah, I would agree to that. I think for most people, sophomore year is a really big year. I think for most wrestlers at the high school level, that's when you really decide um, if you like it or not and if you want to stick with it. So I think it's almost like a rite of passage, so to say, for wrestlers. That's when they decide, hey, am I gonna train really hard and be the best I can be, or is this just gonna be kind of uh, a way to get a varsity study hall. And I think most people at Central do decide to take it seriously at different levels. I think some people take it more seriously than others, but I think most people who are in it sophomore year really do have some level of intensity about their training and some level of wanting to get better. But for me personally, sophomore year, it started kind of similar to freshman year. I had a wrestle off um, with another wrestler for the varsity spot at 145, and I lost within like the last 30 seconds. And so that really stunk. That really put me low. And then I went to like some really crappy like JV freshman sophomore quad, and like I think I had a decent kid, like I majored him, and then I pinned all the other kids in like 30 seconds. And I was like, this isn't what I want. I'm like, I want to be wrestling good kids. And then the kid that I lost the wrestle off to actually ended up like breaking his thumb. So they put me in, which was really nice. And at the first half of my sophomore year on varsity, I really struggled. I think part of it in freshman year, I was able to get away with just a lot of stupid stuff. Like I was probably, or I'm not gonna say I was the biggest, but I think I was one of the most like physically built freshmen. I'd been lifting for about 8 months before, and most freshmen who wrestle like are these little sticks who barely know how to shoot a double. So I can like they can get in on me. I'll just like grab an ankle or do some weird scrambling stuff, and then I'll get out of it. But when you get to the varsity level, everybody's strong, everybody's good, everybody's tough, and so I couldn't get away with that dumb stuff. And then I remember we went to this tournament in Champaign, and I ended up doing well there. I got third, and I beat some good guys, and that was kind of the turning point for me, I'd say, because that's when I kind of shed, or at least I started to shed my bad habits, and I started to become a more technically sound wrestler. And I think I went on like a 7 or 8 win streak. That was the kind of first time where I like really started to wrestle my style and wrestle well. And then I got second at regionals, and it was a heartbreaker. I lost to this kid that beat me freshman year, and that was really tough because whenever you lose to somebody and you wrestle them again, you're kind of out for blood. It's like vengeance. You just want to destroy them. And so then going to sectionals, right? And then the first round, I had somebody who beat me to go to Fresh Off State last year, and they beat me freshman year. Once again, similar to the other guy, but not the same guy. and I ended up beating that kid in overtime, and that was like that might have been the best feeling ever of my sophomore year because I never forgot about that match against him. It was this kid from Lions, and I never ever forgot about it, and I thought about it every day. And when I saw him on my bracket, I was like, at first I was actually really nervous because I lost to the kid from Marmion that beat me previously, and then I see another kid that's already beaten me, and I'm like, man, I'm like, why can't I just have something easy? Like that was the first thing that came to my head. But then as the week went on, before the week leading up to sectionals, I was like, you got to shake that, Ayden. I'm like, that's not how you think. That's not how champions think. And so then I got more and more excited to wrestle him, and then I went on the mat, beat him in overtime. It was kind of crazy. I just remember like going back, I've watched the video a couple of times. Like I can just hear people going crazy. Like my dad is just screaming his head off, and people are screaming too, and all that. And that's the best feeling. And that was when, even though I didn't reach my goal sophomore year, that was one of the biggest highlights. And then I won my quarterfinal match too. I actually upset a kid. He was ranked. He wasn't ranked very high. He was an honorable mention, but I beat him like 10-7. And then fortunately, the next day at sectionals, I lost my 2 matches and I didn't go to state. And that was my big goal, to go to state. I really thought I could. And, I'm not going to blame it on anybody. I think I felt a lot of pressure, and especially at the blood round, which is the qualifying round to go to state. It's a lot of pressure, with any sport, this is your do or die moment. And it was like I took 10 steps back that match. But overall, I think sophomore year was a lot of growth and, a lot of like necessary hardships, because now I look back on it and I say like it's all worth it now because I know what my strengths and weaknesses are, and I know who I'm gonna have to wrestle. And then after that, I was able to go to fresh soph state, which is it's just a state series for freshmen and sophomore, and it was like redemption almost. That's how I kind of saw it, because it's like you don't make it to real state, but you get a second chance. So I won my regionals, and then I won my sectionals. And I remember in my sectional finals match, it was down to the wire. It was like 10 seconds left. I'm down by 1. I go in for like a double. Like he blocks it. I go to single. He like flips me, and like in midair, I stick my leg in, and I get 2, and then I almost get reversed. But I remember like I was just so happy because like I finally met my goal. And then unfortunately first off state got canceled due to coronavirus. But like I just think about how hard I worked to get to that moment, and that's what helps continually motivate me. Now just looking back in sophomore year, saying what could have been sophomore year, I want to make all the coulds realities in junior year, and that's what really motivates me in the off season. Yeah, so that's my sophomore year in a wrap. Oh,
Go.
yeah. So, I mean, that was pretty much my sophomore year. Big year of growth and learning, and ready to bring it on junior year.
All right. Well, that does suck that your career got a little cut due to COVID, but yeah. So I am sorry about that, but it seems like you got redemption in a way, which is very good.
Almost, yeah.
Does it's a very sweet taste. So, Chris, how was your sophomore year?
All right, yeah. So sophomore year was summer going into sophomore year was my turning point. Like I said, freshman year was like like the thing that made me realize that this is what I wanted to do. I realized that like the social life, it's like, is that really gonna help me in any ways? Does it really matter? And I realized that like wrestling's the one thing that like I actually like wanted to be good at, and I made up my mind that I was like, screw like for a while I was like, I'm not gonna go out with like friends every single day. I'm not gonna like worry about that. I'm gonna focus in school. I'm gonna like start doing things that, like no one else is doing. Like I started running a lot more in sophomore year. Like working out and all that. And I remember my year started off with a wrestle off also, or I was scrimmage, I guess you can call it. My match was against Ayden, so that was interesting. Obviously, I knew Ayden was good, and I knew he was probably going to be in varsity that year, so it was a little intimidating. I didn't end up winning that match, but I was okay with it because it was a scrimmage. It was more, and I knew Ayden, so it's like I don't know. I didn't really take it like bad or anything. My first match, I remember, I went to the same like tournament with Ayden or quad meet, whatever you want to call it. Like Ayden said, there wasn't a lot of good kids there, but since I was like the first meet of that year and coming in from my freshman year, I thought about it like in my head. I remember I was like, okay, I need to win. I need to win at least like 2 out of these like 4 matches or something like that. And then I remember before like my first match, Ayden looked at me and he was like, Chris, if any of us like lose a match here, it's like you suck or like I'm like yeah something like that. I don't remember. And I was like, shoot, okay. I remember I won my first match, and like Ayden said, there wasn't really that many good kids there, so I kind of it wasn't really like a hard quad, so I kind of breezed through that one. And also something I didn't mention was my freshman year, I was like the 3rd string for my weight class. There was like 2 people better than me, and I was in like the worst group also. So there was probably like 5 people better than me. I was like almost as bad as you can get. So
What
yeah,
weight class were you in? 38? Or
Uh,
were you at 45? Or
I started at 38 and ended up going down to 32 after Christmas break. But even then, I was still not very good freshman year. But yeah, that's how my sophomore year started. I remember. Eventually, like going from meet to meet, I kept working hard. I kept like doing extra stuff, going out after school, doing stuff, staying after practice, doing all that. And oh yeah, I would also watch a lot of film, or not film, but like just professional wrestling or like college wrestling, which in my opinion helped a lot. And I still do that now. But yeah, so I was winning matches. I I was doing good. Then I got to my first tournament, which the year before I think I got second place at. I got pinned on my again in the finals match. I remember. And this year I breezed through it. To be honest, it wasn't really that hard. It's not a hard tournament, and so that was my first time getting like a first place anything. And I got my bracket, which is really cool. It's a really cool thing to get. And then later came DVC, which is like the final like tournament, or like basically what they tell us, like if you're not in varsity, that's what you should be like practicing for. And I breezed through like the first few matches. Then I wrestled one of our own wrestlers, Paris, who props to him. It was a tough match. I think I only won by like 2 points. Yeah, it was a tough match, but then I went on to the finals against someone from the Calb, and the Calb is a good school. They got good kids, and it was most definitely like the toughest match. I think it came down to like the seconds, and I was able to take him down and hold him down for me to get the win at the end. And it felt like all the work that I've been putting in, like it paid off. And going from like barely having a positive record to going undefeated sophomore year was really nice, and it kind of just helps me to like keep going like what I'm doing now and keep getting better and better. And yeah, then came the Fresh Soft State series, which I didn't do the year before because I was like, it was intimidating because like I wasn't really good. I didn't do good in DVC. Like, why would I do good in the state series? So I didn't try it the year before, which I regret. But sophomore year, I tried it. I got second place in regionals, and then sectionals came, and it didn't go very well. I lost my first match by, I believe, 1 point or 2. And then the second match, I went against a kid that was just better than me, and it didn't go well. But yeah, even then, still, like the progress that I made from freshman year to sophomore year was really nice to see. And even though losing still sucked on sectionals, like it just kind of helps you push even more. And yeah, that's how my sophomore year went.
yeah, I do remember the coaches really emphasized how you had that like most improved like wrestler over the year. I mean, you went
Yeah.
undefeated, right? Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was like a big deal, like from going like from the most defeated to the undefeated. So it's pretty cool.
Right. The
Uh,
underdog.
yeah. So sophomore year was a big year for me too. I'm not gonna talk about it for time reasons, but how is lifting? Lifting is a big part of wrestling. Now, personally for me, this is like probably the biggest thing from wrestling I got out of it, the lifting experience. Uh, Aiden, you want to start us off?
Uh, sure, I'll go. I think lifting is a bad term in my opinion, just because it's more than lifting. It's off season in general. I would say wrestling and lifting and running and film and like open gyms and it's everything.
So like the off-season training.
Yeah, off
what you're
season in general. Lifting obviously is probably like if you look at it like if you had a pie chart and like
saying.
it's a time of everything you do, lifting's probably going to take up the biggest chunk of it. But I'd say off season in general. But I think like it's kind of crazy how I think about it, but I think lifting or off season in general is just where like you learn the most discipline. Because like in season, coaches are usually pretty easy with you, especially after long weeks, because they want to keep your body at 100%. You have to stay injury free. Not saying like they encourage you to hurt yourself in the off season, but you're a lot more precautious in season. And like you're just you get a lot of breaks almost in season because they want you to be at your peak performance, and they obviously work you till you're like on the ground dying for air. Like in the off season, they'll work you till you're dying on the ground for air, and then they'll work you some more. Like, and that's what off season teaches you. I think that it's just it's really takes a lot of dedication. Lifting 5 to 6 days a week, going to a tournament every weekend, having 3 to 4 off-season practices. It's a lot, and then to balance that with school, maybe a girlfriend, and some social life. Like it's a lot, but it really teaches you to almost love wrestling and treat it as seriously as you would anything else, because I love off-season training, I love lifting, I love off-season wrestling, I love off-season tournaments, and it's just the reason I love them is because I take them so seriously, and I'm able to have that discipline and that inner voice saying go and do this, or go and do this, or you're not going to get better. I don't always want to go to lift. Sometimes getting up Saturday morning, or going Saturday afternoon and looking at my rack and being like, now I gotta hit legs, like damn, like I don't want to do that half the time. But there's the voice inside that's like, hey, are you gonna let you know this kid do it while you're not, and they're gonna get better while you're sitting here playing Call of Duty, you know, and it's just such a discipline factor, and it really translates well in season. Obviously, your skill and your strength improve greatly, but just the mindset, I think.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, personally, I have a like college level like home gym, so it's pretty stacked. And yeah, I 100% agree that the discipline you learn from lifting, it's a big deal. It's almost like it's nowhere on this level, but for a high school student, it's like buds training almost. It's like the Navy SEAL training for a student in a
Yeah.
way. So, Chris, how did
Yeah.
lifting affect you?
So I totally agree with what Ayden said. I think the off season is where you make the jump between like being good and being great. Um, like I said, like Ayden said, you have to find a balance between like your social life, school, wrestling, and stuff. And you really gotta learn to like put what is important first, and like what you want to do first. So like I said, like I took a break from like going out and stuff just to focus on wrestling. And it sounds cheesy, but like yeah, people like you'll probably lose some people. People will probably start dropping you because you're not giving them as much attention. You're not doing what they want you to do. But you're making yourself a better person, and you're getting better at what you love to do. So it's like, which one do you like rather do? Um, and yeah, I agree that like off season, it's not just lifting. Obviously, it's also wrestling. and it's definitely where like I've made my biggest jumps, and I still feel like this year the off season is probably gonna help me a lot, especially since it's probably gonna be a lot longer than the usual one. Yeah, I think lifting's really important though, because like you could have really good technique, you could have all that, but like if you don't have the strength to like do some things, it's like, what's the point of like knowing some of these things? Even though I think strategy probably is better, like can give you an upper hand. Lifting though, I agree. Like it helps your discipline evolve, because like especially now it's like we don't have to do it. We totally don't have to. It's not like the coaches are telling us like, oh, you have to get up, you have to do this. Like even this morning I had leg day. It was like, man, do I really want to get up? Do I really want to go do leg day? But you still get up, you do it, and at the end of it, it's like you feel good about it because it's only helping you. It's really like not doing anything bad about yourself. But yeah, I think the most important thing about it is like it's the discipline. The discipline, I feel like it's what changes a person the most, and it's just what helps you build a better you, really. And that's how I feel about it, really.
All right. Yeah, I agree. Like me and you used to like on the off season, like 5 a.m. be in the gym, hitting the weights hard every morning. Definitely remember that. Even in this cold snow. Yeah, it was a very
Yeah,
cold year.
I remember we would get to school before the sun came up, and we would get out of school after the sun came
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was-
I
and
I remember during that time, I would never see daylight
right,
for
right,
like
yeah,
a
and
whole
like
month, probably.
yeah, and just that by itself, like it made you feel cool.
Yeah, personally, it made me feel like an apex predator or something like that.
Right, right,
Like a
and
alpha.
it's like, yeah, you introduced me to Jocko Willink, who's like a Marine or like a veteran now.
He's a Navy SEAL commander, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, his like mindset is like about like he really emphasizes in discipline, and like I feel like I started looking into that, and like I started finding out like David Goggins and all these like tough-minded people, and I feel like that's where like I take a lot from it, and it makes you feel good. These
Yeah.
experiences feel good.
It does. All right. Now, should everyone try wrestling? This is an interesting topic, I think. Like, should everyone try wrestling? Because it's a very challenging sport. And should everyone go through the experience of it? Or should only, the toughest do it?
No,
Ayden?
I'm gonna let Chris take this one first because I got to think about that. That's a
right.
heavy question.
Okay. The way I would say it is like anyone can try wrestling. Anyone can try it. But I don't think anyone can do it. Like I don't think anyone could stick through it. At least if you like actually try and not do just the bare minimum. Because like if you want to get good, you gotta be willing to sacrifice a lot of stuff. So you can't just not just anybody can be good at wrestling. You need to sacrifice things and like do things that not others are doing. And you gotta give a lot of your life into it. So I believe everyone can try wrestling. I would not be opposed to like everyone doing wrestling, everyone trying it at once. But I just don't think that everyone can do wrestling, or like at least like get really good at wrestling, only because I know that not everyone's willing to sacrifice things for it.
Yeah. I agree with that too. Everyone can try it, but not everyone's gonna like be able to do it or make it really.
Yeah.
Right.
Survival of the fittest in a way, or not really survival, more like the will to do it in a way.
Right.
I see it as like more who can excel, and I think
Yeah.
I think those who choose to excel, will have much greater results, because like wrestling sucks when you get beat, but like it feels great when you win, So if you
Yeah.
get beat all the time, like that, those are the kids who leave. And usually kids who get beat all the time, it's not because they're new. It's not because, they're coming from a different sport. It's not because this or that. It's because like they just don't know what it takes to be, a good wrestler. And it's not always their fault, but I think for wrestling and, I think really for combat sports in general, how it's such an individual sport, nobody can pick up for your slack but you, and I love that about wrestling. So I think people who aren't very self-disciplined and, are, looking for people to support them, you can't really get that in wrestling. I mean, you can in the sense, you got coaches and you got teammates that want to help you, but, when you're out there on the mat, there's nobody else that can help you. And I think sometimes that's hard for people to understand, especially, not starting from wrestling. That was really hard for me to understand. I grew up playing baseball for 8 years, and like I could always, rely on somebody else. So if I was having a bad game, a coach could take me out, put me in right field, and I'd just stay there, watch it for fly balls, and somebody could take the heat, for a couple innings. But like you got to take all the heat during wrestling. So there's no benching yourself in wrestling when you're out there for 6 minutes. So I think it's hard for some people to put their head around that concept, and it took me 2 years to really figure that out for myself. So
Yeah, I think we should emphasize on like how it's like obviously like there's team points and stuff, but a lot of it it's like when it comes down to it, it's you against this other guy. And that like once you step on the mat, it's you against this other guy. And the way like I've heard like a lot of people say it's like who wants it more. Like if you're both are on the same level, it really comes down to like just who wants it more, who's willing to like give more for it, and just work harder for the win. And like you said, it's not everyone can do that.
I will say this though, the people who stay in wrestling and just get beat constantly, those turn out to be like the best wrestlers, or like at least the best people. Like for example, Chris, like he got beat more than probably me and Aiden throughout his career, but he's like from the coach's standpoint and like from a lot of the wrestlers' standpoint, he's considered like pound for pound one of the best wrestlers now, and he's like got a lot of respect on the team because he stayed through it, and he endured the losing streak. So and now he's undefeated. So it's pretty
yeah,
cool.
the way I think about it, it's like you can either take the losses in a way that's like, oh, I'm not good at this, like this isn't for me. I'm not gonna like like this is just not for me. But instead, I took it in a way that's like, okay, to like change something, I need to start doing more.
Yeah.
And like you said, I took a lot of losses, yeah. But I decided to learn from them instead of just like let them just drive me down even further. So
yeah, I think I think of the Central program as like, it turns it's like it turns peanut butter into diamonds,
What?
you know how like if you put
Peanut
enough
butter
pressure
into
on peanut
diamonds?
butter, it'll turn into a diamond. Like,
Yeah.
have you ever heard that? Like, I think
Oh, really?
it's I think so. I think it's true. But let's just say, even I'm not a geologist or anything.
I thought that was coal or something.
Is it coal? I don't
Yeah.
know. Let's just say it turns coal into diamonds. We'll say that. So it turns
Yeah.
coal into diamonds. So I think, when the prime examples of that, I think there's this kid named Tyler, came out of um, middle school, very mediocre wrestler, and then was a contender for the state title. Ethan, could barely he didn't even know how to shoot a high crotch freshman year, and he was almost made it to sectionals. And Chris, obviously coming out, not really knowing a whole lot going into freshman year, and then going undefeated sophomore year. Like, I think what's so great about the Central program is that we take those kids. You don't have to be athletic, you don't have to be good at wrestling, you don't have to be strong. Like, all you have to do is want it. And I think at Central we really emphasize that, like, as if you want it bad enough, you will get it. There's a lot of resources. All the coaches are always open to help with whatever you need. And I think those kids who just even when they're at like the darkest points of their wrestling career and are just want it so dang bad that they're willing to do anything for it, that's those are the ones who we look back and say, wow, like those are the people we want for Naperville Central. So
Yeah.
I that's how I see it.
Yeah. Chris, you got any final thoughts or?
Just to go with what Ayden said, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. The Central, the way they do it, it's good. It's kind of like they leave it like up to you. It's like if you want to try, they're more than willing to help you. There's a lot of teammates that are willing to help you out. But if you're not willing to try and you're just kind of doing the bare minimum, going to practice, getting through it, wrestling your meets, and then just completely forgetting about wrestling, then they'll let you do that. And, it's like, it's all up to you how about you want it. For me, I made sure that I think if you want to get good at wrestling, you also got to surround yourself with people that also want to be good, share the same goals as you. And I remember like once I started practicing with Ayden, obviously he would like every now and then would go live and like it wouldn't go well. I'd probably get I probably didn't get a takedown on him for like months. Probably before sophomore season ended, I probably didn't get a single takedown on him. But now that I've been wrestling with them, I've been wrestling with the other varsity guys. I'm talking with the coaches, even wrestling with the coaches. It's like I'm able to compete with them now, and it really is about how bad you want it. I think Ayden said it probably as best as you can.
Yeah. Just adding on to that real quick. I think like the big story is improvement and surrounding yourself with people. I really just want to emphasize, how truly important that is because, some of my friends in middle school, they were wrestlers and, they were just my friends. They weren't my wrestling friends. And, they'd, mess around and whatnot. And they weren't really focused on wrestling. And obviously I'm not saying they're still my friends, I still like to hang out with them, but they were not good, like wrestling friends, because they're not focused. And, there's a time and place, for when I hang out with my wrestling buddies after school. Like we've gone to restaurants, we've done stuff together, we're buddies, but when it comes down to it, when we need to get work done, we are super serious. And, I think it's great, to see like how much growth I've seen working with Ethan and Alex and Chris, and even the growth I felt like I've gotten so much better, and I remember, when I would, just kind of maybe hyping myself up a little bit, but I would just beat the hell out of Chris. And now then, and then Chris gets a single on me and, he's finishing almost every time. So, I think it's that great aspect of, camaraderie and, you don't need the best to become the best.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and also just being able to go from like beating the crap out of each other for hours and then being able to like, hey, you guys want to go grab some food? It's like, it's a great feeling.
yeah,
And
it's good. It's really good.
Yeah. It just builds that friendship even more.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely can recall this. Just beating each other up and then like, hey, so later today, you want to get some lunch or something?
Right. Yeah.
Five Guys is kind of expensive, but Chipotle on the other hand, I don't know. Well, I think that's a great way to leave off the podcast. Thank you guys for joining us so much here at the Top Podcast, and welcome to the family. You can find our Patreon page and our Instagram down below in the description. Please leave a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time at the top. Thank you guys. Bye.